Echoes of the Unseen. Chapter 2. Whisper from Below. Some doors should never be opened. Kenneth's breath was ragged as he stared at the cellar door, now wide open. The darkness beyond it seemed deeper than it should be, like it wasn't just a room, but a void. The whisper still echoed in his mind. "I am here." His instinct screamed at him to leave, but something about the house, the unanswered questions, the cryptic message in the dirt, kept him rooted in place. He forced himself to take slow, steady breaths. If this house was haunted, he needed to know why. Stepping cautiously toward the cellar door, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He aimed the flashlight into the darkness below, but the beam barely penetrated the void. The cellar seemed deeper than before. Then, a noise. Soft, humming. It came from below. A woman's voice, distant yet intimate, as if she were humming just for him. The melody was slow, hypnotic, pulling at something buried deep in his memory. It felt familiar. Kenneth swallowed hard and took a tentative step down. The wooden stairs groaned beneath his weight. His phone light flickered. He gritted his teeth and pressed on, gripping the railing as he descended. The moment his foot hit the dirt floor, the humming stopped. Silence swallowed the cellar. Kenneth swept his light across the room. Dusty shelves lined the walls, filled with rusted tools, empty jars, and decayed books. In the far corner, an old wooden table sat covered in yellowed newspapers and maps. He stepped closer, squinting at the faded print. One article caught his eye. Another obituary. Bethany Fletcher, 19, mysteriously passes away, last seen at Willow Creek House. Kenneth's pulse quickened. The photograph was grainy, but the young woman's eyes seemed to stare straight at him. He flipped through more pages, more missing persons reports, all connected to this house. The dates spanned decades. He was about to take a picture when a gust of air brushed against his neck. He froze. A whisper, right behind him. "He's in the back seat." Kenneth whirled around, his light shaking. No one was there. His pulse thundered as he backed toward the stairs. Then, something caught his eye, an old, leather-bound book sitting alone on a shelf. It looked untouched by dust and time. Against his better judgment, he reached for it. The moment his fingers brushed the cover, the cellar door upstairs slammed shut. The air grew heavy. Oppressive. Kenneth couldn't move. Then, the whispers began. Dozens of voices, overlapping, entreating, some pleading, some laughing. The book in his hands grew warm. His vision blurred. The cellar walls shifted, the wooden beams warped, and the air filled with the scent of burning wood and rotting flowers. Then, amidst the whispers, one voice rose above the others. A woman's voice, sharp, filled with pain. "Leave. Now." The force of it sent Kenneth staggering backward. He dropped the book, his chest tightening. He clawed his way to the stairs, his body screaming for air. The whispers grew louder, swirling around him, pulling at him. With every ounce of strength he had left, he lunged up the steps. His shoulder slammed into the cellar door, and it burst open. Light flooded in. The whispers stopped. Kenneth collapsed onto the hallway floor, gasping. His hands trembled. The air in the house felt lighter, but not empty. Something watched him. Still. Waiting. He pulled himself up and staggered toward the front door. He needed to leave, to get far away. But as he reached for the doorknob, his phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. Kenneth's stomach twisted as he read the words. "You took something that isn't yours." His heart pounded. He hadn't taken anything, had he? Then, he noticed his left hand. His fingers were covered in dirt. And clutched in his palm was a single, yellowed page from the book. The text was smudged, faded with time, but one phrase stood out clearly. "Forever bound to this home." Kenneth's hands went cold. He hadn't just uncovered a ghost story. He was now part of it. Kenneth stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding like a drumbeat. The text message glowed on his phone screen, "You took something that isn't yours." His gaze dropped to his dirt-covered hand, still clutching the yellowed page from the mysterious book in the cellar. How had it gotten there? He didn't remember tearing it out. He stepped back toward the staircase, drawn by something he didn't understand. He should leave. Every part of him screamed to get out. But some twisted curiosity, something deeper, urged him to stay. He needed to uncover the truth. The house, however, wasn't so welcoming now. The moment he turned toward the cellar door again, a chilling draft snaked along the hallway, extinguishing his phone flashlight in an instant. The screen flickered. A new message appeared. "Don't trust the one who whispers." Kenneth's spine stiffened. From somewhere above him, on the upper level, came a slow, deliberate dragging sound. Like furniture being moved. But he was alone. Right? He stared up the staircase that led to the second floor. Every creak, every breath of the house now felt amplified. It was as if the walls had biorhythms, alive, watching, responding to his presence. He hesitated, then ascended. Halfway up, his hand brushed against something stuck in the banister, a small key, old and tarnished, tied with red string. Taped to the underside of the railing was a slip of paper, handwritten in dark ink. "Find the crypt. Follow the number 3. Kenneth blinked. What did that mean? 3 what? He reached the top floor. The hallway smelled like lavender and rot. Doors lined the walls, some open, others tightly shut. The third door on the right was slightly ajar. His hand hovered over the knob before pushing it open. The bedroom was untouched. Clean, almost preserved. A woman's scarf lay draped across the bed. Beside it, an old jewelry box. He opened it slowly. Inside were 3 items. A tarnished wedding ring. A lock of hair tied with a faded blue ribbon. And a dried flower pressed into the velvet lining. Kenneth felt a twinge of sorrow. Who had this room belonged to? He turned to leave, but froze. The mirror above the vanity had fogged up. Writing formed on the glass. He lied. His pulse spiked. "Who?" he whispered aloud. "Who lied?" The mirror didn't respond. But from the back of the room came a low growl. Not animal. Not human. He turned, and the closet door creaked open an inch. Kenneth backed out, slamming the bedroom door shut behind him. He moved to the next room, the attic hatch. It hung slightly open. A ladder rested beneath it, as if someone had just been there. He considered climbing it, but then his eyes caught something disturbing. 3 photos, nailed in a row on the hallway wall. He hadn't noticed them before. One was of a young woman, Bethany, the girl from the newspaper. The second was of George, his uncle, younger than in the other photo he'd found. And the third was someone else, familiar. It took Kenneth a moment before he realized. It was him. The photo looked recent. Taken from behind, it showed him walking through the woods, his backpack, his jacket, even the scar on his left wrist. It hadn't been there before today. Someone, or something, had been watching him. A loud bang came from downstairs, the front door slamming shut on its own. He raced down to find it locked, deadbolt twisted. His phone buzzed again. New message. You need to finish what they started. Kenneth's breathing turned ragged. He opened the cellar door again. The darkness didn't scare him anymore, it beckoned. This time, he brought more than his phone. He grabbed a rusted lantern from the wall, surprisingly still functional. As he descended, the whispers resumed. But now they seemed to chant, not random, not incoherent. 3 voices. Speaking as one. The altar, the crypt, the key. Kenneth reached the bottom and stepped carefully over the dirt floor. The lantern revealed a narrow passage he hadn't noticed before, hidden behind a curtain of hanging tools. He moved through it into a smaller chamber. In the center was a stone slab, partially buried in the dirt. Carved into its surface, a demonic sigil. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. Beside it, a small stone altar, cracked and stained. The crypt. He had found it. Thank you for watching. Hit that like, share and subscribe for more. It's totally free. And hey! Tap the screen to check out this video.